Leslie Matthews, tonight on News 7 at 6.
A weekend fire claims the life of another district firefighter.
In Virginia, a national strike by the Teamsters is put on hold until later this morning.
And high above the Earth, astronauts aboard the International Space Station continue their back-breaking work. Good morning, Washington. It is Tuesday, June the 1st. I'm Mary Jo Walsh.
We've made it halfway through the year already. I'm Horace Holmes. Thanks for being with us. Beverly in just a minute. This morning, D.C. firefighters are mourning yet another loss to the department.
Yesterday afternoon, a second D.C. firefighter died after battling a blaze at a Northeast townhouse early Sunday. News 7's Dale Solly has our report.
The heat was so intense, it was just coming through our coats, through our pants and everything. You could just feel the heat like you were in a blast furnace or something.
41-year-old Fire Lieutenant Charles Redding of Mitchellville wears the burns on his face and carries the pain in his heart from a fire he will never forget. The 17-year veteran led his men into this burning Northeast townhouse early Sunday morning, and in that sudden burst of heat, it was two of his men who died.
Eating at my heart every day that I was able to get out.
The 30-year-old firefighter Tony Phillips of Lanham, married, father of two, was dead at the scene. This is Phillips in home video, raising the flag outside his engine house, Company 10. That same flag now flies at half-staff in his memory.
In general, talking to him every day, he was a wonderful person.
29-year-old firefighter Lewis Matthews of Hyattsville, married, father of one, died at Washington Hospital Center.
I didn't have to worry about much when I had Matthews. It was just like a piece of cake when Matthews was working with me.
Company 26, where Redding and Matthews teamed up, is now draped in black bunting. Another Company 26 firefighter, Joe Morgan, remains hospitalized, and Redding is reliving the worst night of his life.
I do feel guilty. I said I was the only one to come out basically this is nothing, these burns that I have compared to what they have. I feel real guilty. It's just, I don't know, it's just eating at me every time I think about it. I saw firefighter Matthews' mother this morning in the hospital. I broke down and cried because
Services for Tony Phillips will be held on Thursday. He'll be buried then on Friday. As far as Lewis Matthews is concerned, those arrangements are not yet complete. However, later on today, if you want to do something to help, the fire department is going to hold a blood drive at Washington Hospital Center between the hours of 8 and 4. All you have to do is show up at the donor center. That may be the best place that you can go to help. In Northeast Washington, I'm Dale Solly, News 7.
Fox 5's Morning News starts now.
District firefighters now mourn the loss of two comrades who died in the line of duty battling a blaze.
A car crashes into the fence of the old executive office building. Police say alcohol and two off-duty Marines are involved.
And how do you go about making your own website? We'll tell you on this Tuesday morning, June 1st, 1999. Good morning, I'm Mark McCarthy.
And I'm Josh Binswanger. Welcome to Fox Morning News. Nice to have you with us. 68 degrees once again. Straight
to our top story now. Investigators say this weekend's deadly townhouse fire in Northeast may have been triggered by electrical problems in the basement. One firefighter died when superheated toxic gases suddenly exploded into a fireball. Another firefighter died from his injuries yesterday, and his death has devastated his co-workers. Fox 5's Lauren Williams is at Engine Company 26 in Northeast with more. Lauren.
Mark, this is the first time that the district has lost two firefighters in a single fire since 1911, and yes, they are taking it very hard. You see here at the Brentwood Firehouse, the flag is flying at half-staff. The front of the firehouse is draped in black bunting. Now, members, as I said, are taking this pretty hard. 29-year-old Lewis Matthews worked out of this firehouse for the past 7 years. He died yesterday afternoon. 30-year-old Anthony Phillips died on Sunday. Both were battling a blaze on Cherry Road Northeast Sunday morning when they were caught in a flashover. That is an explosion of superheated gas and flames. Both received massive burns and died of those injuries. Now, 36-year-old Joseph Morgan Jr. remains in the hospital in critical condition. And 41-year-old Charles Redding, we should see some pictures of them. 41-year-old Charles Redding was released from the hospital yesterday. Now, Lieutenant Craig Duck is joining me now. Both Mr. Morgan, who is also in the hospital, and Mr. Matthews, who did die from the injuries in the blaze, were out of this firehouse. Can you just tell me right now, what is the mood here? How are the folks taking this right now?
Well, they're taking it pretty rough, as can be expected, especially rough on this shift because Joe Morgan, this is his shift that he normally works on. So, and Lewis Matthews would relieve them in the morning. So they're taking it very hard.
Now, you were telling me earlier that the folks from this firehouse are trying to get together with the families, or families of Mr. Matthews, trying to find out what they need and what they want. How are you going to work with them?
That's correct. The fire department will send some people out to talk to the family to find out what their needs are and what the fire department can do for them. That'll be taking place later on today.
Now, Mr. Morgan, to my understanding, is having some sort of surgery this morning. There's a blood drive right now underway to help him. Can you tell me a little more about that?
That's correct. There's a blood drive going on from 8 o'clock, and I don't know all the exact details, but they can call up to the Washington Hospital Center and find out. And Joe Morgan is supposed to have some surgery, so everybody here is keeping him in their thoughts and prayers.
Okay. Lieutenant Craig Duck, thank you so much. Lark, we'll take it now on back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Lauren. Funeral arrangements for firefighter Lewis Matthews will be announced later today. Services for Anthony Phillips will be held this Friday at 10 a.m. at Bethesda New Life Gospel Church in Northeast. As Lauren reported, this firefighting tragedy was caused by what's known as a flashover. It's an explosion of superheated gases. Coming up later this hour, we will take you inside a simulator that one local county uses to teach firefighters how to handle those potentially deadly situations. Thank you, Julie. Looking at the stories topping our news. This morning, 2 Marines are in custody after crashing their car into a gate at the old executive office building. An early morning fire on 4th Street Southeast has sent a firefighter and a resident to the hospital. And investigators say the Northeast townhouse fire that killed 2 district firefighters may have been sparked by electrical problems in the basement. Josh?
Lark, the toxic fireball that killed the 2 firefighters is known as a flashover. Fox 5's Karen Gray Houston recently went to Montgomery County, where fire and rescue personnel go through dress rehearsals to prepare to combat this dangerous scenario.
This is what it looks like during a flashover. Heavy smoke, intense fire, gases, and then the gases ignite.
It's a gas event. That's what rollover and flashover is.
This is similar to what it must have been like when the gases ignited around the 4 D.C. firefighters, only they couldn't get out.
Unfortunately, it sounds like they were caught above a fire, which is this was a basement fire. They were on the 1st floor. Of course, the fire was raging down below them.
Montgomery Fire and Rescue has had this flashover simulator since last August, the only one in the metro area. Most of their career firefighters and 100 volunteers have already gone through the training. Going into the simulator, you need protective gear, which weighs about 40 pounds, a face mask, and oxygen tank. The temperature inside, upwards of 1,000 degrees.
This training is all about flashover awareness. To let firefighters know some of the signs so they can recognize it when they're in a critical situation.
But once there's a flashover, there aren't many options.
It is said, and in our training, we teach you need to be within 5 feet of an opening to survive it. That's 2.5 seconds. Our gear can protect us, but not long at all.
The experts say it's important to recognize flashover, then combat it with water, or recognize it and get out. In Rockville, Karen Gray Houston, Fox 5 News.
The Montgomery County Fire Department has also trained firefighters from Frederick and Howard counties in the flashover simulator.
Live from WUSA Broadcast House, Channel 9 Eyewitness News this morning begins now. Good morning, I'm Gerald Owen.
And I'm Jennifer Ryan.
It's the worst loss of life in the D.C. Fire Department in 88 years. 2 firefighters have now died from injuries suffered while fighting a townhouse fire in Northeast on Sunday. And this morning, colleagues are taking steps to make sure the 2 others injured in that fire make a full recovery. Channel 9's On Yang has the story.
Brentwood firefighters weren't prepared to lose another one of their own. 29-year-old Lewis Matthews was a 7-year veteran, and colleagues and friends from Engine Company 26 are trying to cope with the loss.
We're going to be down for a while, but then we have to continue because they're looking at us now. You know, I mean, they've fallen, but they're still with us.
Fellow firefighters characterized Matthews as a joker, but serious when it came to his work.
He was a very go-getter, very excellent lineman, very aggressive, did his job very well.
Matthews and 3 other firefighters were battling a townhouse fire in Fort Lincoln Sunday morning when they were caught in a blast of superheated gases. Flames roared up from the basement to the first floor, and they were hit instantly. 30-year-old Anthony Phillips, shown here in a training video, died less than an hour later.
We must remain strong. We must exhibit the strength that we know exists within this organization throughout this ordeal. And believe me, it has been and will continue to be an ordeal for us.
Firefighters are preparing Engine 10 to carry Phillips' casket.
We're all kind of shook up here. We're going to try and get through it the best we can.
We got to get this ready because this is like his final send-off, and we want everything to be perfect, you know, because he meant a lot to us.
36-year-old Joseph Morgan remains in critical condition here at the Washington Hospital Center. But yesterday, 41-year-old Charles Redding was released. Later this morning, firefighters from across the city are expected to come to show support and donate blood. Un Yang, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Funeral services for Anthony Phillips will be held Friday morning at 10 o'clock at the Bethesda Gospel Church in Northeast Washington. Arrangements for Lewis Matthews are still being made.
Watching NBC4, working for you. Live from the area's leading news station, this is News 4 at 9.
Fire in southeast Washington is the first major blaze since the fire Sunday that took the lives of 2 D.C. firefighters.
And News 4's Megan McGrath joins us live from Engine Company 26 in Northeast D.C. Megan.
Good morning. As you can imagine, a very difficult day for the D.C. Fire Department. Another firefighter has died from the injuries he sustained while battling a residential blaze in Northeast Washington over the weekend. That brings the death toll to 2, and there is a 3rd firefighter who remains in the hospital with very extensive burns. Now, we are here at Engine Company number 26, and the folks here, despite their grief, and they are certainly in a state of mourning, they are trying to put their feelings behind them so that they can get on and do their job. At Engine Company 26, the calls keep coming in. The firefighters here are in a state of mourning, but their jobs cannot be put on hold. So with lights flashing, they leave the station to fight the next fire, but it's not easy. Missing on this call is Joseph Morgan. He should be behind the wheel, but instead he's in the hospital with extensive burns.
You know, we still have to respond. It's especially difficult for the shift working today because Joe Morgan, who's still in the hospital, this is his shift, and so most of the guys are working today, and they're trying to get through it.
Company 26 was hit hard by last weekend's fire. 2 of their own were injured in the blaze. Joseph Morgan survived and is in the hospital, but Lewis Matthews died from his wounds yesterday afternoon. Another firefighter, Anthony Phillips from Engine Company 10, died on Sunday. It's the first time in decades that 2 D.C. firefighters have been killed in the same blaze. As difficult as the loss is, the rescue crews are trying their best to return to normal operations.
Service to the community needs to go on. It has to go on, so it's not something that you can just stop because something's happened. Someone's got to fill in, someone's got to do the job.
And a 4th firefighter was injured in that blaze, Lieutenant Charles Redding, but he was released from the hospital yesterday. Now, we were speaking earlier this morning with the captain here at Engine Company 26, asking him exactly what folks were doing to try and put their pain and their grief behind them so that they could indeed get on those engines and respond to the calls. And basically what he said is that they have to get back to their training and not think too much about what they're doing or think too much about what happened, to really hone in on the steps kind of the procedure of going out on a call, the procedure of going and fighting the fires and doing what they do every day routinely, and just try and separate yourself from your emotions, which, as you can imagine, must be very, very difficult because they have lost 2 friends, and they still have a third firefighter is in the hospital battling for their life. So there's a lot of emotion here, a lot of sadness, but they still have a job to do. Back to you.
And if they don't stay focused, it could be even more dangerous.
Right. It's always a dangerous situation whenever you enter a burning home, and you certainly want to have your focus.
Thanks very much, Megan McGrath.
Thanks, Megan. Well, D.C. Mayor Anthony Williams is honoring the 2 firefighters who died and is praising their courage. He says their efforts to fight the fire that took their lives, quote, exemplifies the dedication and commitment of those who risk their lives daily to serve our city.
Fox 5's New News starts now.
Good afternoon. I'm Patrick McGrath.
And I'm Laura Evans. Welcome to Fox 5's Noon News this Tuesday. Investigators believe it may have been electrical problems that ignited the blaze in Northeast that claimed the lives of 2 D.C. firefighters. 29-year-old Lewis Matthews died yesterday afternoon after a battle to survive. 30-year-old Anthony Phillips died from his injuries Sunday. The firemen were battling the blaze Sunday morning in a Northeast townhouse when they were caught in what's called a flashover. That's an explosion of superheated gas and flames. Both firemen had massive burns. A third firefighter who fought that blaze remains hospitalized this afternoon. Fox 5's Lauren Williams joins us live now from Washington Hospital Center. She's got more on his condition. Lauren?
Well, Laura, 36-year-old Joseph Morgan is in critical condition here at the hospital. He suffered burns over more than half of his body. Now, he's scheduled to have surgery at some point today. Firefighters have been trickling into the hospital's blood donation center all day long today, since about 8:30 this morning. They're coming in to donate blood just in case he might need it. Now, joining me now is John Thomas. He's also a D.C. firefighter. Now, just explain to me why it was so important for you to come in today.
Well, I feel that it's every firefighter's duty to come in and donate blood when needed. I mean, it's an honor to be able to take part in this for a fallen firefighter. Everybody should feel overwhelming desire to come and do this.
How are you as a firefighter, and maybe some of the other firefighters you've talked to, how are you coping thus far with this tragedy?
Well, I mean, it's a very, very sad, feeling throughout the department right now. It's going to be a grieving process. It's just something that time is going to have to heal.
All right, John Thomas, firefighter John Thomas, thank you so much for talking with us. Now, Mr. Morgan is an 8-year veteran of the D.C. Fire Department. Again, he was scheduled to have surgery this morning. Now, he worked out of the Brentwood Firehouse in Northeast, as did fallen firefighter Matthews, as you mentioned earlier. Black bunting drapes the front of the firehouse, and the flag there flies at half-staff in memory of the 2 fallen firemen. This morning, fellow firefighters did their best to come in and go to work and do things that they normally do, but it is a very, very difficult time for them right now.
Everybody here is taking it pretty rough, and they're all helping each other out, and it's real rough because this is the shift that Joe Morgan, who's still in the hospital, is supposed to work, and so they're taking it pretty rough, and Lewis Matthews would come in to relieve him in the morning, so they're all trying to make it work.
Now, fire officials are meeting with the family of Mr. Matthews. He had a 2-year-old son, and they're meeting with the families to find out and as well as the family of the other firefighter who was killed. They're meeting with those families to see what they need right now and get together with them to also get the things rolling to set up a trust fund for those families. Laura?
All right, Lauren, thank you for that. And we do have some information regarding funeral arrangements for firefighter Anthony Phillips. Services will be held this Friday at 10 a.m. at Bethesda New Life Gospel Church in Northeast. Arrangements for Lewis Matthews will be announced later today. Patrick?
You're watching NBC4, working for you. Live from the area's leading news station, this is News 4 at 4.
First at 4, the district firefighting community, the men and women on the job, and the people who love them are trying to heal now after the loss of 2 firefighters. Chris Gordon joins us now from an engine company that was home to one of the deceased. Chris?
Susan, here in Northeast, engine company number 10 got some visitors today to let them know they're not alone, to share in their grief. At the home of Engine 10, where they are mourning the loss of firefighter Anthony Phillips, they got an unexpected gift, an enlargement of his photograph, which they mounted on the station house entrance and decorated in his memory. It was brought here by the mother of one of Phillips' fellow firefighters.
I'm grieving with him. I mean, I'm hurt too. It could have been my child. I'm grieving for the family and for all the guys here at the firehouse. And anything I can do, I'll do.
D.C. Mayor Anthony Williams paid a courtesy call here, making a condolence visit, talking privately with firefighters, and then stopping by the firehouse where Lewis Matthews was the driver of Engine 26. He died yesterday afternoon. After spending some time privately with the firefighters inside, the mayor spoke briefly about their visit.
Really the respect of our city and the condolences of our city for the loss of the two firefighters here at the two engine ladder companies. But also I wanted to let the firefighters know that while there was a real tragedy that they lost two members of their family, really. There's a real firefighting community in every city, and it's certainly true here. It was a real triumph, though, because everything we're trying to do is build community, and there's no stronger showing, no stronger testament to community than two firefighters who give their lives so that others might live. It's really as simple and as fundamental as that, and it's very, very moving.
Within the last half hour here at Engine Company number 10, Anthony Phillips' widow, Lisa, came by, got hugged, talked about her husband, his love of being a firefighter. This was his dream, she said. And then there wasn't a dry eye among the firefighters and the media when she said her little one, her 2-year-old, doesn't know what's happening, but she recounted how she told her other son, 6-year-old little Tony, what had happened.
On a Sunday, after I came from the hospital, I sat with him and I told him, I said, because he had been to a previous funeral, and I told him, I said, little Tony, I said, remember when Mother Poole died and she went to see Jesus? I said, well, Daddy went to see Jesus. And he started crying. And I said, well, we won't see Daddy anymore. And he said, well, Mommy, why couldn't God give Daddy a second chance? And he cried and cried and cried, and we cried together, and we hugged and we cried. And he went and played and came back and cried, went and played and came back and cried. But he's my strength. He's much like his daddy. He would tell me, Mommy, you have to be strong. You have to be strong. And
there will be a viewing on Thursday and the funeral for Anthony Phillips on Friday. On News 4 at 5 o'clock, we will hear more from his widow, Lisa, and also from his mother. Both were very upbeat today. They said he wanted to be a firefighter. If he died, he said he wanted to die as a firefighter. And they shared a very upbeat message, knowing that he is at peace, knowing that he is with God. Back to you in the studio.
Chris Gordon. Thank you, Chris.
A firefighter who was injured in that blaze remains hospitalized this afternoon. A blood drive for him is happening right now. News 4's James Adams is live at Washington Hospital Center with that part of the story. Hi, James.
Good afternoon, Jim. The Washington Hospital Center has become the focal point for grief as well as hope because D.C. firefighter Joe Morgan is here. He remains in critical condition. He has burns over the majority of his body. The burns, we're told, are concentrated on his chest and torso area. But also here, a blood drive where firefighters have been gathering all day long. That blood drive has been taking place basically here on the first floor. Mayor Williams also stopped by and gave blood, as did a number of firefighters and district residents. The center here opened at around 8:30 this morning, and by 4 this afternoon, some 75 units of blood had been donated. That's about 4 times what they see on a normal day. This was also an opportunity for firefighters to express their grief and their support for the family. Joe Morgan upstairs, as you see here now, in the burn unit, fighting for his life. Family members say they understand and they're here. We spoke with his sister.
We just really appreciate all the support that we have gotten from everyone, friends, families, and strangers. Everyone has just been so nice, and we are going to be okay.
Officials here at the Washington Hospital Center say that they haven't seen this kind of giving in the last 5 years. Coming up on News 4 at 5 and 6 o'clock, we will talk with some of the physicians here about the severity of firefighter Morgan's burns. We'll also hear from his sister once again. Back to you in the studio.
All right, James Adams, we'll see you then. Funeral arrangements have been made now for one of the fallen firefighters. A service will be held at New Life Gospel Church for Anthony Phillips on Friday, June 4th in Northeast Washington. He will be buried at Fort Lincoln Cemetery, that's in Brentwood, Maryland, in an area called the Last Alarm Garden. It is dedicated to fire and emergency personnel. Coming up on News 4, Tony Dorsey will take a closer look at why firefighters are willing to put their lives on the line for us. That story at 4:30. Susan?
NBC4, working for you. Live from the area's leading news station, this is News 4 at 4.
Welcome back. I'm Susan Kidd.
And I'm Jim Hadley. Pat Lawson-Muse has the day off.
150,000 Americans have made firefighting a career. All of them know it's a dangerous job. So why do they do it? News 4's Tony Dorsey went to a couple of fire scenes today to try to find out. And he joins us now with more on the story. Tony?
Susan, it may sound corny, but most of the firefighters we spoke with today told us they do it just because they like helping people. None of them said they were in it for the money. They go where most of us wouldn't dare go, and they see things most of us wouldn't want to see.
It has to be for the love of it, the desire.
A desire to kill flames and to save lives.
I do it because nobody else will do it. That's why I do it. You know, very few people will go in some place where people are running out.
Tinley Circle Station Truck 12 has just put out another fire. This one at the Tatum House condos. The flames were so intense, they melted plastic and tried to cut through the ceiling.
Well, with the amount of debris that was inside, it could have been a major fire if had it spread anymore. But we contained it pretty fast.
The firefighters' actions didn't go unnoticed.
They came in, they were considerate of everyone, and they really covered everything. They did it textbook.
For many, the draw is the satisfaction they get from helping others.
Basically, you gotta love people. You know, it's a public servant, and it's a public job, and you get the good things when things are good, and then you have to deal with the bad when things are bad.
Now, a couple of the firefighters we spoke to told us they've come very close to death. One of them, in fact, fell through a burning staircase. Still, they keep on fighting fires. And coming up tonight at 6, you'll hear from a rookie about how he's dealing with this latest tragedy all of us are dealing with. Back to you.
All right, we'll look forward to that. Tony Dorsey, thank you. While there is deep sorrow over the deaths of the 2 district firefighters, there is relief, too, that one of the other men injured is already back at home recovering. Lieutenant Charles Redding suffered burns to his face and back. After spending a day in the burn unit, he was able to return to his Mitchellville home yesterday. He says what happened inside the smoke-filled townhome early Sunday was unlike anything he'd ever seen or felt before.
It just grew real hot. He was just unbearable. It was just going through our clothes, through our protective gear. He was just burning our skin through our gear.
Now, coming up on News 4 at 5 o'clock tonight, you'll hear the rest of Charles Redding's story and his thoughts about his fallen colleagues.
Live from WUSA Broadcast House, Channel 9 Eyewitness News at 4 begins now.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Buchanan.
I'm Beverly Burke. Thank you for joining us. The tragic deaths of 2 D.C. firefighters weigh heavily on their colleagues, their families, and friends. Anthony Phillips and Lewis Matthews died in the line of duty fighting a townhouse fire Sunday. This afternoon, Anthony Phillips' widow, Lisa Phillips, spoke to the media for the first time since that deadly fire. Channel 9's Mark Lodato now joins us live with more. Mark?
Well, Beverly, there were some touching words and tears inside the home of Engine Company 10 here on Florida Avenue Northeast as Lisa Phillips relayed her thoughts and her memories of her late husband, Tony, who, of course, one of 2 firefighters who died in that blaze early Sunday morning. Let's go ahead and show you the video from inside. The press conference itself wrapped up just about 15 minutes ago. On the left side of the screen, Wydinia Saunders, the mother of Tony Phillips. On the right, widow Lisa Phillips. She says the 2 met 10 years ago, and even back then, she knew that her husband wanted to be a firefighter more than anything else. It took another 6 years to accomplish that goal. She says her nickname for her husband, Big Baby. She felt like she was taking care of 3 kids sometimes. Of course, he leaves behind 2 young children, widowed, a 7-year-old little Tony will be 7 later on this month, and a 2-year-old. According to Lisa Phillips, she says she knew there were risks involved when her husband became a firefighter, but she would never have asked him to do anything else.
No, I have no regrets at all. That was his dream, and he always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman. He wanted just to do his job. He wanted to do his job, and I have no regrets at all. I have no regrets at all. That was his dream, and that's what he did.
Can you tell us a little bit about what he enjoyed about being a firefighter?
Oh, everything. Everything. This man, that was his dream, was to become a firefighter. It took him approximately 7 years to actually get into the department. And he came home with the stories. He told me, and I tell everyone, he was excited. The fires got him excited. He said the adrenaline was just pumping, you know, and he's just ready to go all the time. And he loved it. He loved it.
So certainly a job that Tony Phillips could not do without, and his wife is doing her very best. She says she's drawing on the strength from the other firefighters inside this engine house and, of course, across the D.C. metro area. Now, we have several updates for you on some developments regarding the services for Tony Phillips. Of course, those will be held on Friday, and tomorrow there will be a viewing which begins at 11 a.m., of course, at the New Bethesda Gospel Church at 700 Kenilworth Avenue. And then on Friday will be the service itself, the funeral at 10 a.m. Expected to speak there, Mayor Tony Williams and City Council Chairwoman Linda Kropp. That, of course, will be followed by a procession through the city. Now, we're told that there will be representatives of all 54 companies of the D.C. Fire Department along the procession route. And units from Fairfax and Prince George's County have agreed to cover calls for service within the D.C. metro area as needed. So there will be trucks from out of town in D.C. on Friday to make sure that all emergency calls are answered, meanwhile giving officers and firefighters here of the department the opportunity to witness the procession and take part as necessary. Now, as for the funerals themselves for both firefighters who died in the fire over the weekend, the Heroes organization, which supports police and firefighters in town, has donated $5,000 per family to go towards services, and the union has also put up $2,000 per family. Now, as for the fire itself, there has been a committee formed, a 6-person investigative committee, to track down exactly how these firefighters died and if there's anything that can be learned from this experience to prevent further tragedy in the future. Now, another firefighter is still clinging to life at this hour, Joseph Morgan, of course, another injured in the blaze. We were told that he went through surgery this afternoon. It was expected to last anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. We do believe he is out of surgery, but have no report exactly on how well it went. However, they said there were some encouraging signs within the last 24 hours as he became more ambulatory, began using his hands to make signals and signs and letters to communicate with those in the room, and they are hoping and praying that his recovery will continue. That's the very latest here from Engine Company 10. For now, I'm Mark Lodato. Coming up at 5 o'clock, Mike and Beverly, we will hear from Mrs. Saunders, the mother of Tony Phillips, and she too has some very kind words to say about her son, who she is missing today. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Mark Lodato reporting live.
Working for you, live from the area's leading news station, this is News 4 at 5.
Flags raised only to half staff in the district today as the city mourns the deaths of 2 firefighters in the line of duty. Good evening, everyone. I'm Doug McElway.
And I'm Susan Kidd. The widow of one of those firefighters spoke out today. Lisa Phillips addressed people at Engine Company 10, where her husband worked. Chris Gordon joins us now from that engine company on Florida Avenue in Northeast. Chris?
It has been said many times since this tragic, fatal fire over the weekend that the fire department is one big family. Well, today, they allowed us to get close to the family. Anthony Phillips' widow, Lisa, was hugged by firefighters. They shared their deep sense of loss. Anthony Phillips died doing what he loved, being a firefighter.
That was his dream, and he always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman. He wanted just to do his job. He wanted to do his job, and I have no regrets at all. I have no regrets at all.
Philip's mother says her son's enthusiasm for firefighting has been a lifelong passion.
He likes excitement, and this was exciting to him. And as she said, he pumped up. He not only pumped himself up, he pumped us up.
Yes, he did.
And it was just, even the smells and just everything about this firefighter business. He learned it well.
He told me a while ago that the support I'll get from the fire department if he did, or if something did happen to him, and that is more than true. That's more than true. They've been great. They've been really great.
Here at Engine Company number 10 tomorrow night, they are planning an informal memorial service, and one of the firefighters told me that the public is welcome to come here to the 1300 block of Florida Avenue Northeast. Now, on News 4 at 6 o'clock, we will talk about funding troubles facing the fire department as they try to do their job, a life-and-death job, and hear a commitment from D.C.'s mayor about providing the resources necessary to do that job. Back to you in the studio.
Chris Gordon. Thank you, Chris.
Anthony Phillips and Lewis Matthews were battling a fire in the Fort Lincoln part of the district when flames of the superheated gas flashed through the townhouse. Phillips, of course, died that day. Matthews died yesterday. And efforts are underway to save a third firefighter who was injured in that tragic fire. James Adams is at Washington Hospital Center tonight, where a blood drive is now ongoing. James?
That blood drive is ongoing, and firefighter Joe Morgan is here as well. He is in critical condition. Doctors say he has burns over 60 to 70% of his body. They are second and third degree burns, which are the worst one can sustain. And they say literally his prognosis goes from minute to minute, hour to hour. Members of the burn unit, like firefighters, have a common mission: save lives. They continue their best efforts to keep firefighter Joe Morgan, the 36-year-old father of two, alive. Family members say they understand and appreciate.
We're holding up very well. We just really appreciate all the support that we have gotten from everyone, friends, families, and strangers. Everyone has just been so nice, and we are going to be okay.
Morgan's family and representatives from Engine Company 26 keep vigil outside the burn unit, while doctors say these are critical hours for firefighter Morgan.
Our work right now is focused at stabilizing the patient from burn shock and getting the patient with a major burn ready to undergo multiple trips to the operating room where we can get rid of devitalized burn tissue.
Meantime, 4 floors below, D.C. firefighters line up, waiting to give blood.
I've not seen this kind of response in the 3 years I've been here. It's wonderful.
For firefighters, the giving is therapeutic. Since 8:30 this morning, 75 units of blood have been donated.
This is just the very least that the rest of us can do and try to feel like we're being a part of a help effort.
Love and our prayers go out to him, and all the best to Joe, and we hope he pulls through.
Firefighters who know Joe Morgan say he does not give up. He is not a quitter. They expect him to pull through. Mayor Anthony Williams was also here donating blood today. We talked to him. We'll share that with you coming up on News 4 at 6 o'clock. Back to you in the studio.
Okay, James, we'll see you then. Thank you.
And emergency personnel.
Remarkably, one of the injured firefighters is already out of the hospital. Lieutenant Charles Redding left the burn unit yesterday and talked to News 4 about the most horrifying moments of his career inside that fire. Julie Carey joins us with his story now. Julie.
Well, to look at Charles Redding, you would think he might be in too much physical pain to even talk. His face and back carry second-degree burns, but his concern, his thoughts, were not about his injuries. Instead, they are about his department's losses.
Even though I look bad, mentally, I'm hurting more than physical.
Though burns left angry marks on his face, Lieutenant Charles Redding brushes off concerns over his pain. He hurts the most, he says, for the loss of 2 firefighters, 2 friends.
It's just hurting me mentally, just to know we lost the 2 firefighters, and I was in there with them, and I came out alive. It just really hurts.
But because he came out alive, Redding can tell the story of what happened early Sunday inside the smoke-filled townhome on Cherry Road. He can tell of something he has never witnessed before in 17 years of firefighting. They were on the hose line wearing oxygen masks. They put out a small flare-up coming from the basement. Then it happened.
It just got real hot, like I never felt before. The heat was just unbearable. It was just going through our clothes, through our protective gear. He was just burning our skin through our gear. Because we didn't know, I didn't get burned by any fire or anything. I was just burned by the heat.
Other firefighters say what happened was a phenomenon known as a flashover, simulated here at Montgomery County's training center. Superheated gases suddenly ignite. The temperature is 1,500 degrees. At that moment, Redding's helmet was either broken or knocked off. He and firefighter Joe Morgan staggered out the front door.
I said, I'm on fire. I told him I'm on fire. So Chief, I said, Chief, Firefighter Matthews is still in there, and he started a rescue right away.
But that rescue couldn't save Lewis Matthews and Engine 10's Anthony Phillips from suffering what were ultimately fatal burns. And Redding's friend Joe Morgan will battle his injuries for months to come.
Just kind of hurts, because I was basically the only one to come out really with the injuries I have. There's nothing compared to the other guys.
And it hurts so much, says Redding, that he cannot imagine returning to Engine 26 once he does fully recover.
If I went back, I don't think I could go back to 26 Engine anymore. Just the memories would just be too hard on me. I'll always see Firefighter Matthews when I go there. I'll always see his face, because he always smiled.
But Lieutenant Redding says firmly he does want to go back to work. In spite of all this, he still says firefighting as a career is the best thing that's ever happened to him. Back to you.
Julie Carey. Thank you, Julie.
You're watching Washington's ABC 7. We're on your side. This is News 7 at 5.
Two families are coming to grips with a terrible reality tonight. Their husbands, sons, and fathers are gone forever. Hello, I'm Carol Costello.
And I'm Del Walters. Kathleen has the night off tonight. Just 2 days after her heroic husband died doing what he loved best, the widow of a D.C. firefighter explains how she had to tell her young son that Daddy is never going to come home again. News 7's Kevin Schultz joins us live now with the heartbreaking story. Kevin?
Well, Dale, here at Engine Company 10 in Northeast D.C., there's a feeling of a somber family reunion as lots of hugs go around with firemen trying to support one another. It's that same type of support that is helping the widow of Tony Phillips cope with her loss.
He's a very loving husband and loving father. He took care of us. He definitely took care of us. He's what I call my big baby.
Lisa Phillips is just beginning to feel the sharp pain of losing her husband in a fire that's changed her life forever. 30-year-old Tony Phillips, a father of two, was killed while fighting this burning townhouse in Northeast D.C. early Sunday morning. He was one of two firemen who died.
The fires got him excited. He said the adrenaline was just pumping, you know, and he's just ready to go all the time, and he loved it.
This was just his thing, and he wanted it, and he went after it, and he got it, and it was his.
This is Phillips in home video, raising the flag outside his engine house, Company 10. 29-year-old Lewis Matthews, a firefighter at Company 26, died at Washington Hospital Center yesterday. 41-year-old Fire Lieutenant Charles Redding of Company 26 is at home recovering from burns. Another Company 26 firefighter, Joe Morgan, remains hospitalized in critical condition. Both company fire stations are draped in black bunting, and at the scene of the fire, firefighters have left flowers, poems, and they spray painted, "We love you, Engine 10. Those same firefighters are now trying to ease the pain for Lisa Phillips.
I have no regrets at all. That was his dream, and he always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman.
Back live in Northeast D.C., where you see that a fireman and a little girl have just laid a wreath here underneath the picture of Tony Phillips. We are learning more about the funeral of Tony Phillips. It will be held at 10 o'clock on Friday morning at the Bethesda New Life Gospel Church on Kenilworth Avenue in Northeast. There will be a long procession afterwards, which we are told there will be 54 D.C. fire companies represented there along that route. We are also told that the funeral arrangements for Lewis Matthews are still pending. Reporting live from Northeast Washington, I'm Kevin Schultz, News 7.
And Kevin, can you give us more on the condition of firefighter Joe Morgan?
Sure. We understand that he underwent surgery today for 6 hours at the Washington Hospital Center. He was able to move before that. He is in critical condition, but he was able to move his hands, do the alphabet with his fingers, which is a good sign. And they say that surgery in and of itself is also a good sign when you have such severe burns.
And our hearts and prayers go out to the families. News 7's Kevin Schultz reporting live tonight from Northeast Washington. Thank you, Kevin.
Of course, we're all wondering how it could have happened. So to the investigation into the cause of that fire that's caused so much sorrow. Tonight, we have new information about how the fire may have started and then spread so quickly, and you might be surprised at what we found. News 7's Lauren Ashburn is live with that part of the story. Lauren?
Well, Carol, one source close to the investigation is telling News 7 that the 2 firefighters who died on the first floor of this townhouse died not just as a result of a flashover in which gases are ignited, but they also may have died as a result of a backdraft. And that backdraft may have been caused by fellow firefighters. The source says it may have happened when a team coming in the back crashed open a back door, causing a surge of oxygen to come into the townhouse. That then forced the fire up from the basement, killing the 2 firefighters.
In this case, these firefighters were on the first floor. There was communications from the company in the rear that it was a basement fire. Their operation is to wait until the battalion chief tells them that it's okay to make an advance on the fire, and I believe that happened, that was not a problem.
Now, the investigation is still in its very, very early stages, but that possibility is among one of them. I'm Lauren Ashburn reporting live. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Well, perhaps no one has a more personal view on the fire than firefighter Charles Redding. Now, he was in the house early Sunday morning when it went up in flames. He spoke with News 7's Dale Solly shortly after he was released from the hospital.
The heat was so intense, it was just coming through our coats, through our pants and everything. You could just feel the heat like you were in a blast furnace or something.
41-year-old Fire Lieutenant Charles Redding of Mitchellville wears the burns on his face and carries the pain in his heart from a fire he will never forget. The 17-year veteran led his men into this burning Northeast townhouse early Sunday morning, and in that sudden burst of heat, it was 2 of his men who died.
Eating at my heart every day that I was able to get out.
The 30-year-old firefighter Tony Phillips of Lanham, married, father of 2, was dead at the scene. This is Phillips in home video, raising the flag outside his engine house, Company 10. That same flag now flies at half-staff in his memory.
In general, talking to him every day, he was a wonderful person.
29-year-old firefighter Lewis Matthews of Hyattsville, married, father of 1, died at Washington Hospital Center.
I didn't have to worry about much when I had Matthews. It was just like a piece of cake when I had when Matthews was working with me.
Company 26, where Redding and Matthews teamed up, is now draped in black bunting. Another Company 26 firefighter, Joe Morgan, remains hospitalized, and Redding is reliving the worst night of his life.
I do feel guilty. I said I was the only one to come out basically this is nothing, these burns that I have compared to what they have. I feel real guilty. It's just, I don't know, it's just eating at me every time I think about it. And I saw firefighter Matthews' mother this morning in the hospital. I broke down and cried. Because
Coming up at 5:30, we're going to show you how firefighters across our region are coming together to help their injured and fallen colleagues. Carol?
You can also help by donating money. Funds to help the Phillips and Matthews families have been set up. And tonight, members of the Fort Lincoln community are here in our studios to take your pledges. If you want to donate, all you have to do is call 202-432-9552. Joining us now is Commissioner Bob King from the Advisory Neighborhood Commission. And Bob, tell me why you guys decided to do this.
First of all, just let me thank Channel 7 for giving on behalf of the Fort Lincoln community, this most precious opportunity to come in here to extend our sincere condolence to the family of Phillips and as well as Matthews, and our continuing prayers for the firefighter Morgan and his family. We thought that we wanted to, in a spirit of loving and giving, and that's what the Fort Lincoln community is all about, and to be consistent with that, we wanted just to come in here and man these phones and just ask the metropolitan community, Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, just to light these phones up and make your donation to any of the nation banks.
When people call to give a donation, where will the money go?
Hopefully we'll go to the families of the Phillips family, the children. I believe he had a 2-year-old, 6-year-old, and a 21-month-old. So that money will be well deserving to the family, hopefully through some scholarship for the education of those children. This is a terrible loss. I do want to take this opportunity to thank the Metropolitan Police Department and the paramedics and the firefighters. All of them are heroes. Had it not been for their timely response, we probably would have lost more than just 2 lives. We probably would have lost many more and destroyed many more properties in the Fort Lincoln community. So I'm here today with some seniors and some representing the family development. Our condo associations are here. There's some folks back home who are praying. So we're simply delighted that we have this marvelous partnership with Channel 7 to do something great.
Well, we appreciate your being here, and we're glad to help in any way we can. Thank you very much. Once again, the phones will be open until 6:30, so if you get a busy signal, just call back. And we want to say the phone number one more time, 202-432-9552. Please call.
You're watching Washington's ABC 7. We're on your side. Now, News 7 at 5 continues at 5:30.
Well, as we've been reporting throughout our broadcast, people from across the region tonight are coming together to help the families of those 2 fallen firefighters.
They certainly are. They are also helping the firefighters injured in that deadly weekend fire. One way to do that is to give blood. News 7's Drakeel Burns has our story.
You feel the heavy hearts as soon as you walk into the doors here at the Washington Hospital Center, especially from federal firefighter Joseph Gordon, who's had brushes with death. He's been hospitalized in the past for smoke inhalation and second-degree burns after fighting a blaze.
It's heartbreaking. I mean, you're losing a family member. We all do the same job, and it's tough.
Gordon and other area firefighters packed into the blood donor services at the hospital. They waited in line to show support for the 2 comrades killed following the weekend blaze. Firefighter Lewis Matthews died yesterday. Firefighter Tony Phillips died at the scene.
They put a demand on the blood supply here at the Washington Hospital Center. So the firefighters are here not only to give back blood that we've used, but also blood for our comrade who's still going into surgery.
And still hanging on is firefighter Joe Morgan. He was critically injured in the blaze. His sister gave blood on his behalf.
We just want to extend our condolences to the family of the Phillips and the family of Matthews, and let them know that our hearts are with them, and give our thanks to all who have come to our aid, and let them know to just keep us, all of our families, in your prayers.
All the firefighters are feeling the pain, and so is the hospital staff. In fact, this sign sits in the hospital offering condolences for the loss and thanking firefighters for their donations. The blood drive isn't just for firefighters. Hospital officials say it's for anyone who wants to show their support, and firefighters say they hope you will. Drakeel Burns, News 7.
And if you would like to donate blood, the Washington Hospital Center's Blood Donor Services is open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. On Thursday, it's open from 8 to 8 at night. You can also help by donating money to firefighters' families. Volunteers from the Fort Lincoln community are in our studios taking your pledges. All you have to do is call 202-432-9552. They've gotten a lot of calls this afternoon for pledges of $25 or $50, clothes for the family. They will have all the information about how you can help. If the number is busy, keep on calling. They will be answering the phones until 6:30 tonight.
Live from WUSA Broadcast House, Channel 9 Eyewitness News at 5 begins now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Eyewitness News at 5 o'clock. I'm Mike Buchanan.
Thanks for being with us. I'm J.C. Hayward.
It's been a tragic, terrible 2 days for the D.C. Fire Department after the city's deadliest fire in decades. We lost 2 heroes, but it's been worse for the 2 women who have lost their husbands in the line of duty. One of the newly widowed, Lisa Phillips, spoke out today for the first time about her husband. Her story. Mark.
Well, Buck, Lisa Phillips says her husband, one of his proudest days was the day he graduated from the Fire Academy and joined the crew here at 10 Engine here in Northeast. That was 4 years ago. Today she talked about the person she will miss, a dedicated husband and father.
The fires got him excited. He said the adrenaline was just pumping, you know, and he's just ready to go all the time. And he loved it. He loved it.
Lisa Phillips says while she misses her husband, she has no regrets for her choices in life because Tony died doing what he loved.
I know it's a dangerous job, but like I said, it's something he'd always wanted to do, so it wasn't like I could talk him out of it. We just prayed a lot and really put our faith in God, and God was ready for him.
30-year-old Phillips leaves behind 2 children. Lisa recalls having to tell the oldest, 6-year-old Tony Jr., that his father would not be coming home.
I said, well, Daddy went to see Jesus. And he started crying. And I said, well, we won't see Daddy anymore. And he said, well, Mommy, why couldn't God give Daddy a second chance? And he cried and cried and cried, and we cried together, and we hugged and we cried. And he went and played and came back and cried, went and played and came back and cried. But he's my strength. He's much like his daddy. He would tell me, Mommy, you have to be strong.
Tony he likes excitement, and this was exciting to him. And as she said, he pumped up. He not only pumped himself up, he pumped us up.
Now we want to update you on several other developments. First of all, we've just been told that there will be a memorial service here at the firehouse on Florida Northeast tomorrow night at 6 p.m. And the public is invited here to spend some time with family members as well as other firefighters who work here at the firehouse, Truck 13 and Engine Company 10. Of course, on Thursday will be the viewing for Anthony Phillips. That is at 11 a.m., followed by the funeral Friday at 10. Both events at the New Bethesda Gospel Church at 700 Kenilworth Avenue in Northeast. The funeral will be followed by a procession throughout town, and Mayor Tony Williams is expected to say a few words at the funeral. And there will be firefighters from all 54 companies here in the city, at least watching that procession, lining the route. And we are told that firefighters from Fairfax and Prince George's County will be on hand to cover fire calls here in the city. Also, Buck, a quick update on the condition of Joseph Morgan Jr., another firefighter injured in the fire over the weekend. We are told that he went through surgery today, expected to last anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. We're not sure of the results of the surgery, but we were told beforehand there were some encouraging signs because he became more ambulatory, began using his arms and hands to communicate with those in the room. That's the latest here in Northeast. I'm Mark Lodato, sending it back to Broadcast House.
All right, Mark, thank you very much.
A city council member this evening is trying to help Lisa Phillips and other survivors of those who have been killed while protecting our city. Now, Eyewitness News has learned that the annual payment to the families is considerably less than some other major cities. And so a bill is now before the city council that would dramatically increase that payment. Channel 9's Dave Statter is at engine number 26. He's in Northeast Washington, and he has more information. Dave?
JC, when we run this story by people who are not connected to the fire department, they all shake their heads wondering, is this any way to treat a hero? Apparently that's what prompted council member Sharon Ambrose to put a bill into the council to try to correct this problem. Now, this problem came to light shortly after October of 1997. That's when Sergeant John Carter of the D.C. Fire Department died in a Northwest building fire. His wife, Debbie, and their son, Brian, received a number of lump sum payments from government and private organizations. She also receives an annuity, basically her husband's pension, and this is where the problem is. That annual payment is only $15,400, or 40% of John Carter's salary. If John Carter had survived this fire and had to retire because of his injuries, he'd receive 2/3 of his salary, not the 40%. This bill in the council last year is trying to correct this and basically give a survivor of a police or firefighter 100% of the salary each year.
I was appalled, and I knew that all my colleagues would be appalled, that a firefighter killed in the line of duty would receive lower compensation than a firefighter who fell and injured his back in the line of duty and was off on disability. And given the tragedy to the family of that loss, this was obviously not only not equitable, but really unjust.
Remember, just 40% of John Carter's salary goes to Debbie Carter each year. Some major cities, and we'll hear more about this on Eyewitness News at 6, provide 100% of the salary each year. Now, this bill was written to recognize Debbie Carter's plight and anybody that came after her, and it's basically backdated if it ever passes, and will protect Debbie Carter, some police officers' widows, and Lisa Phillips and the family of Lewis Matthews. Now, where is this bill right now? Well, last year it died in committee, and this council session in January, Council Chairman Linda Kropp wrote the mayor. They need Mayor Tony Williams to authorize the retirement board to conduct an audit to see what this would cost the city each year. So far, we understand that has not been done, and we're checking with the mayor's office right now to see what they plan to do with this request. Back to you at Broadcast House.
Okay, I know you're going to follow that bill through. Dave Statter reporting live. Thank you very much.
Our community mourns the loss of 2 district firefighters killed in the line of duty. In Fairfax, firefighters answer the call to supply the high demand for the gift of life. And as we welcome summer, experts prepare for what could be a devastating hurricane season. You're watching the Rush Hour Report here on News Channel 8. I'm Melanie Hastings. And topping the news at 5, the District of Columbia remains at a loss today after 2 city firefighters died in the line of duty. The men, 29-year-old Lewis Matthews of Hyattsville and 30-year-old Anthony Phillips of Lanham, were killed while trying to put out a fire in a northeast townhouse over the weekend. John Lyle is back now with a live report from engine station number 10 in Northeast. John?
Well, Melanie, Sunday's fire was one of the deadliest in the D.C. Fire Department's history, and now we know a little bit more about the life of one of the courageous firefighters who was killed in that fire. Today, firefighter Anthony Phillips, his wife and mother, bravely faced the media to talk about how he loved his family and how he loved his job.
I know probably every spouse, wife will say that about their husband, but he was the best. He was the best. I couldn't ask God for anyone better than him.
26-year-old Lisa Phillips says her faith in God is getting her through this terrible time, life without her husband, Tony.
He's what I call my big baby. He was my big baby. I have 2 other boys, and I took care of them all.
Tony Phillips died at the scene of Sunday's early morning fire. He was a member of Engine Company 10, perhaps the busiest engine company in the country. His wife, though, says she has no regrets about his profession or the fact that it ultimately ended his life.
He always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman.
He likes excitement, and this was exciting to him. And as she said, he pumped up. He not only pumped himself up, he pumped us up. And it was just, even the smells and just everything about this firefighter business.
Tony Phillips' mother and his wife said that his proudest moment was when he graduated from the Fire Academy. They also say that they have gotten a world of support from the firefighters, other firefighters here at Engine Company 10 and from the fire department. Melanie?
Very sad story. John, did Anthony Phillips leave behind any children?
He had, I understand, I think he had 2 young children, a 6-year-old son and a much younger daughter.
All right, thank you. John Lyle reporting for us from Northeast. Thanks, John. A viewing for firefighter Anthony Phillips will be held this Thursday from 11 to 8 at the New Bethesda Gospel Church on Kenilworth Avenue in Northeast. His funeral will be held Friday at 10 a.m. at the same church. Funeral arrangements for firefighter Lewis Matthews are still pending. Firefighters from all over are showing their care, that they care about their fallen and injured firefighters by giving the gift of life. All day long, firefighters lined up at the Washington Hospital Center blood bank to donate blood as a show of support. The firefighters came not only from the district, but from Maryland, Virginia, and other parts as well. The hospital says it is grateful for the effort. Usually this donation is low in the summer.
It's like a family in the D.C. Fire Department, and we have firemen from everywhere here, from Maryland, Virginia, from the federal government and District of Columbia, and a lot of police officers also have come down today.
More than 70 firefighters donated blood today. More are expected throughout the week. As one district firefighter clings to life, the request for blood was made, and Fairfax County firefighters answered the call in overwhelming support. Men and women spent part of their afternoon donating blood for the firefighter. They say it's just part of their duty.
You're watching NBC4, working for you. Live from the area's leading news station, this is News 4 at 6.
They are being remembered as fallen heroes, two D.C. firefighters who died doing what they did best. Good evening. I'm Doreen Gensler.
And I'm Jim Vance. It was a tragic ending to a routine call. The fire happened over the weekend, but for many, the news is just now starting to sink in. We have two reports tonight. James Adams at Washington Hospital Center, where one of the injured firefighters is being treated. Chris Gordon is at Engine Company number 10 in Northeast D.C. We begin with you, Chris.
Jim, Engine Company 10 got a couple of visitors today who showed them they're not alone in their grief. At the home of Engine 10, where they are mourning the loss of firefighter Anthony Phillips, they got an unexpected gift, an enlargement of his photograph, which they mounted on the station house entrance and decorated in his memory. It was brought here by the mother of one of Phillips' fellow firefighters.
I'm grieving with him. I mean, I'm hurt too. It could have been my child. I'm grieving for the family and for all the guys here at the firehouse. And anything I can do, I'll do.
D.C. Mayor Anthony Williams paid a courtesy call here, making a condolence visit, talking privately with firefighters, and then stopping by the firehouse where Lewis Matthews was the driver of Engine 26. He died yesterday afternoon.
And I thought the least I could do was to come out here and show them my support. And I also wanted them to know that as part of rebuilding this city, I consider rebuilding the equipment and the resources they have to do their jobs of utmost priority, because if they're going to put their lives on the line, the least we can do is make sure they've got the resources to do their job.
In the wake of this weekend's fatal fire, the department is investigating not only the cause of the blaze, but whether anything could have been done differently to save lives. After the October 1997 death of D.C. firefighter John Carter, a report recommended staffing ladder trucks with a crew of 5 and assigning an assistant battalion chief to the scene.
Those issues, those two personnel issues, were not done. However, because you're talking about funding, I don't want to, and I'm not going to say that had those two items been done, it would have made a difference here.
Anthony Phillips' widow, Lisa, was embraced by his fellow firefighters here at Engine Company 10 today. She says their 2-year-old doesn't understand what happened, and she told how difficult it was to explain it to their 6-year-old, little Tony.
I said, well, Daddy wanted to see Jesus. And he started crying. And I said, well, we won't see Daddy anymore. And he said, well, Mommy, why couldn't God give Daddy a second chance? And he cried and cried and cried, and we cried together, and we hugged and we cried. And he went and played and came back and cried, went and played and came back and cried. But he's my strength. He's much like his daddy. He would tell me, Mommy, you have to be strong. You have to be strong.
Lisa Phillips says her husband got to live his dream, being a D.C. firefighter, and he died doing what he loved best. Back to you in the studio.
Chris Gordon, thanks. Dwayne?
Another firefighter who was injured in that same fire remains in critical condition at this hour. James Adams continues our coverage now, live from the Washington Hospital Center. James?
Doreen, firefighter Joe Morgan isn't out of danger yet. He's 36 years old. He's been on the D.C. Fire Department for 9 years. He has a 16-year-old son and a 4-year-old little girl. And this evening, everyone here is wishing him the best. On the 4th floor burn unit, doctors say these are critical hours. 36-year-old Joe Morgan, with burns over 60 to 70% of his body, holds on. Despite what happened, family members say they know Morgan loves his job.
We worried a lot, you know, when you're a firefighter, family member, you always worry. But he loved firefighting, he loved helping people, and that's, you know, just what happened.
Doctors say burn victims face several life-taking hurdles, and the first 48 hours can be crucial.
That's when the patients go into burn shock with major burns, and it's real dicey trying to get them through that period of shock, which is unique in this instance to a major burn injury.
Firefighters and family members have been at the hospital since Morgan arrived. They pace and wait.
Giving up's not one of his options.
At Engine Company 26, they remember a fighter of more than fires.
And Joe really needs support, and you know, we're going to be going up there every day, and he's got, the doctors are very optimistic, but he's got a long road to hoe. I mean,
the Washington Hospital Center this evening is also a focal point of hope. There is a blood donation drive going on inside, and hospital officials say record numbers of units of blood have been given. They haven't seen anything like it. We'll have more on that a little bit later in this broadcast. Doreen, back to you.
James Adams, thank you.
You're watching News 4 at 6.
As the district mourns the loss of 2 firefighters who were killed on the job, efforts are underway to help a 3rd firefighter who was injured in the blaze that killed his colleagues. James Adams is at the Washington Hospital Center where a blood drive is going on. James?
Good evening, Doreen. That blood drive is taking place just inside of the main public entrance here at the Washington Hospital Center, and officials here say they haven't seen anything like it. They believe they may have set a one-day record for the numbers of units of blood that they were able to get today, mainly coming from D.C. firefighters. But from D.C. firefighters to average citizens, including the mayor of Washington, Mayor Anthony Williams, people showed up, a steady line of folk. This center opened up around 8:30 this morning, and by 4 o'clock this afternoon, we're told that 75 units of blood had been donated. Now, for firefighters, this giving was part of their expression of support and sympathy to the family. We also spoke to Mayor Anthony Williams about why he was here and just how important this donation effort is.
I think the least we can do is, one, make sure they've got the equipment and the resources to do their job, and number 2, give a little bit of ourselves, and I think this is part of that effort.
75 units of blood will last approximately 30 days at this hospital. Here's the address if you'd like to stop by tomorrow, 110 Irving Street, Northwest Washington. Again, the blood donation center is located just inside the hospital's main lobby here in Northwest Washington. So the effort continues again tomorrow. We're told, however, that D.C. Fire Department has some 4 blood drives throughout the year, but again, they say the outpouring of support, what they have seen here is simply incredible. They haven't seen anything like this in years. Doreen, back to you.
All right, thank you. James Adams reporting from the Washington Hospital Center. Jim?
There are an estimated 250,000 professional firefighters in America, and on any given day, any one of them might have to risk it all. Tony Dorsey talked to some local firefighters today to find out why they chose such a profession. Tony?
Jim, like any job, people are drawn to firefighting for lots of reasons, but none of the firefighters told me they were in it for the money. The average firefighter nationwide only makes $34,000 a year. They go where most of us wouldn't dare go, and they see things most of us wouldn't want to see.
It has to be for the love of it, the desire.
A desire to kill flames and to save lives.
I do it because nobody else will do it. That's why I do it. You know, very few people will go in some place where people are running out.
Tinley Circle Station Truck 12 has just put out another fire. This one at the Tatum House condos. The flames were so intense they melted plastic and tried to cut through the ceiling.
Well, with the amount of debris that was inside, it could have been a major fire and had it spread anymore. But we contained it pretty fast.
The firefighters' actions didn't go unnoticed.
They came in, they were considerate of everyone, and they really covered everything. They did it textbook.
For many, the draw is the satisfaction they get from helping others.
Basically, you gotta love people. You get the good things when things are good, and then you have to deal with the bad when things are bad.
Some firemen tell me they just never got over that first impression made by the shiny red fire truck.
Ever since I was a kid, you know, I've been wanting to be a firefighter, and I used to volunteer, you know, quite a few years ago, so I wanted to do this for a career, so.
For some, it's the thrill and the adrenaline rush. But after tragedies like the one this past weekend, it can be difficult to keep doing this, especially if you're a rookie. But they do. You're going to keep fighting?
As long as I can.
until I retire, and hopefully it won't kill me.
Gaines says it's tougher on the rookies because they've never gone through this before. Not only do they have to deal with their sadness, but they also have to conquer their fear. Jim, back to you.
You're watching Washington's ABC 7. We're on your side. This is News 7 at 6.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maureen Bunyan.
And I'm Carol Costello. Kathleen Matthews has the night off. 2 district firefighters who died fighting a blaze in Northeast D.C. are being praised for their valor and their courage tonight.
But the words of praise come just as the investigation into the fire takes some surprising turns. News 7's Lauren Ashburn joins us live from Northeast D.C. Lauren?
Maureen, a source close to the investigation is saying that fellow firefighters may have caused a backdraft that could have led to the death of those 2 D.C. firefighters. Firefighters died over the weekend, one dying on Sunday. That would be 30-year-old Anthony Phillips. 29-year-old Lewis Matthews died on Monday. He leaves one son. And 36-year-old Joe Morgan is still in critical condition. Now, the source close to the investigation is telling News 7 the 2 firefighters died on the first floor, and one died not just as a result of a flashover in which gases ignite into forming a fireball, but it could have been a backdraft that may have happened when a team coming into the back opened a back door, causing a surge of oxygen to come into the townhouse. That then forced the fire up from the basement, killing one of the firefighters and then later the other. The second team came in the back basement.
Actually, the second team did as they were assigned. They came in through the basement. However, they did wait outside until they had communications from the battalion chief to make entry, which is our standard procedure. They are not to open their nozzles until they have confirmation that the team is on the first floor, and for them to go ahead and attack the fire.
The ATF, as well as D.C. investigators, will continue this investigation. They have ruled the fire as accidental. That's the fire itself. They will continue the investigation into exactly what happened in that Northeast townhouse. Live in Northeast, I'm Lauren Ashburn for News 7.
Thank you, Lauren. Those 2 fallen firefighters were extraordinary men who knew the dangers of their job. But tonight we introduce you to the wife of firefighter Anthony Phillips, and we discover what an extraordinary woman she is. Lisa Phillips spent part of the day consoling her husband's colleagues at Engine Company 10. A father of 2 children, Anthony Phillips died fighting a fire at a Northeast D.C. townhome. Fellow firefighter Lewis Matthews also died because of that blaze. Today, Lisa Phillips recalled her husband's love of the job, and through her pain, she found her own consolation.
I have no regrets at all. That was his dream, and he always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman.
Funeral arrangements for firefighter Phillips are set. The viewing is set for Thursday from 11 to 8 at the New Bethesda Gospel Church on Kenilworth Avenue. The funeral will be Friday at 10 o'clock at the church. He'll be buried at Fort Lincoln Cemetery. Arrangements for firefighter Lewis Matthews are still incomplete.
And firefighters are asking you to donate blood at the Washington Hospital Center to show your support for those 2 men who died. Many area firefighters showed up throughout the day to donate, and so did Joe Morgan's sister. Morgan is still hanging on after being critically injured in that blaze.
We just want to extend our condolences to the family of the Phillips and the family of Matthews, and let them know that our hearts are with them, and give our thanks to all who have come to our aid, and let them know to just keep us, all of our families, in your prayers.
If you would like to donate blood, the Washington Hospital Center's blood donor services is open Monday through Saturday from 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. But on Thursday, it's open from 8 to 8 in the evening. And in our studios tonight are members of the Fort Lincoln community. They are taking calls from anyone who wants to offer assistance in helping the families of the firefighters. The number to call is 202-432-9552.
Live from WUSA Broadcast House, Channel 9 Eyewitness News at 6 begins now.
And he always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman.
The widow of one of 2 D.C. firefighters killed in the line of duty pays tribute to his spirit as she shares her grief with the community. Good evening, I'm Andrea Round.
I'm Gordon Peterson. We'll hear more from Lisa Phillips in just a minute, but first, Eyewitness News has learned that a city council member feels the district is not doing enough to help Lisa Phillips and other families of firefighters and police officers killed in the line of duty.
The problem is this: the survivors of a police officer or firefighter killed protecting the city receives considerably less money each year than many police officers or firefighters who simply retire or who are disabled on the job. Channel 9's Dave Statter is at Engine 26 in Northeast Washington. Dave, tell us more about how this happened.
Well, Andrea, this is an issue that a lot of firefighters right now don't want to publicly talk about because they're concentrating on getting these funerals together, burying the 2 fallen firefighters. But there are other people who are very concerned and outspoken and concerned that Lisa Phillips, the wife of Tony Phillips, and the family of Lewis Matthews will not receive an adequate annual pension. That's the pension that their heroes, the heroes of the city, would have received as they protected the nation's capital. 19 months ago, when Sergeant John Carter died in this building fire in Northwest Washington, his wife Debbie was assured that the city would help take care of her and the couple's son Brian. By law, both the city and federal governments provided a considerable lump sum death benefit. And then there's the issue of John Carter's retirement annuity. If John Carter had survived his injuries and was forced to retire on disability, he would have received 2/3 of his annual salary as a pension. But because he died, Debbie Carter only gets 40% of his salary, or $15,432 each year.
I was appalled, and I knew that all my colleagues would be appalled, that a firefighter killed in the line of duty would receive lower compensation than a firefighter who fell and injured his back in the line of duty.
Councilmember Sharon Ambrose last year tried to correct the problem with a bill changing the annual payment for survivors to 100% of the salary. That's similar to Baltimore, where after 2 years on the job, the survivors are due 100% of the salary. In New York, line-of-duty deaths result in annual payments of 100%. And in Philadelphia, the figure is 80%, but it ceases if the spouse remarries.
You will be able to make the compensation level approach that in other jurisdictions and in the federal government.
Remember, this affects firefighters and police officers. Marty Piper with the Fraternal Order of Police says the current 40% figure has to change.
So that's not a lot of money to, have a surviving spouse or raise a family on.
This should not be the way we compensate our heroes.
And we learned from Debbie Carter that she had to refund the city a few $100s because they originally figured that compensation based on her husband's rank of sergeant, a promotion he received just before his death, and remember, he was a sergeant when he died. But the problem is, because of the way the retirement system is, he actually should only receive his pension as a firefighter. She receives that annual payment based on his rank of firefighter, a lesser salary, and had to repay the city a few $100s. Debbie Carter was also upset. One of the pallbearers, a good friend of her husband, there at the funeral, came up from Florida. He was on disability from the fire department. Again, he receives 2/3 of his salary as compensation, and he's able to play golf, as she says, in Florida every day. Back to you, Gordon.
So unfair. Dave, what's the status of the bill now?
Well, the bill died in committee in the last session. This session, it got a lot of support, and the council members wanted the retirement board to look at what this would cost the city, to do an audit. They found out that the mayor has to make that order, and Linda Kropp, the council chairman, wrote a letter to the mayor's office in January to see if he could order the retirement board to do that audit. So far, there has been no reply, according to Linda Kropp, and we today have no reply from the mayor's office.
And do we know if the bill would include retroactive status so that someone like Debbie Carter, at least 2 to 5 years before this bill, if it does pass, would be available to receive these funds?
It would affect Debbie Carter. The way the bill's written now, it also would affect those that we lost this week, would affect their families.
Who would sign off on this bill?
That's a good question. Probably ultimately, obviously has to get to the support of the mayor and probably the powers that be in Congress and elsewhere. And there was talk at some point, Debbie Carter said she was going to appear before the city council and eventually Congress, but so far that hasn't happened. And also she was going to be joined by the widows of some fallen police officers.
Dave Statter, thanks very much. Firefighters turned out today to help one of their own. Joe Morgan is still in critical condition at the burn unit at the Washington Hospital Center. Of course, he was injured in the fire in which 2 firefighters were killed. Today, his colleagues came to the hospital to donate blood for Morgan and other patients at the hospital. Also today, the widow of Anthony Williams, Lisa, spoke with reporters about her husband's life and death. Mark Lodato joins us from Engine Company 10 in Northeast Washington with that story. Mark?
Well, Gordon, if you take a look behind me right now, these are the folks from Truck 13. As you can see, they are polishing this ladder truck, getting it all ready for the funeral procession later on this week. Of course, Truck 13 accompanies 10 Engine, where Tony Phillips worked. But just a short time ago, earlier this afternoon, all these firefighters were inside listening as the firefighter Phillips' widow expressed her thoughts.
Thank you very much.
Wendenia Saunders and Lisa Phillips console each other over the loss of son and husband, firefighter Tony Phillips.
He was the best. He was the best. I couldn't ask God for anyone better than him. He's been good to me from the time I met him up until Saturday, the time I left here. He's a wonderful man.
Lisa recalls since the day they met a decade ago, Tony Phillips wanted to become a firefighter. That dream became a reality 4 years ago.
The fires got him excited. He said the adrenaline was just pumping, you know, and he's just ready to go all the time. And he loved it. He loved it.
We helped him through the academy with the note cards and the books, and he was just, this was just his thing, and he wanted it, and he went after it, and he got it, and it was his.
Phillips leaves behind 2 children. The oldest, Tony Jr., turns 7 later this month. Despite the loss, Lisa says she's confident her husband is now in a better place.
I know it's a dangerous job, but like I said, it's something he'd always wanted to do, so it wasn't like I could talk him out of it. We just prayed a lot and really put our faith in God, and God was ready for him.
And we want to review some of the events in the weeks ahead. First of all, we just found out about a memorial service that will be here at the firehouse on Florida Avenue Northeast. That's tomorrow night at 6. And then, of course, on Thursday is the viewing, and we have some more information to pass along. The viewing itself is at Thursday, again, at 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Bethesda New Life Gospel Church, which is up on 750 Kenilworth Avenue Northeast. And that will be followed by the funeral, which will be on Friday at 10 a.m. Anthony Williams expected to speak there at the same church, 750 Kenilworth Avenue Northeast, and that will be followed by the procession throughout portions of the city, and then the internment at Fort Lincoln Cemetery, 3401 Bladensburg Road, and that is in Brentwood, Maryland. And several firefighters from around the metro area are expected to attend, and just so that all the firefighters from D.C. can take part if they would like to, there will be firefighters covering calls here in the district. For now, I'm Mark Lodato in Northeast. Back to you.
Thank you, Mark.
Fox 5's 10 o'clock news starts now.
Hello there, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Tracy Neal.
And I'm Mike Landis.
Another major story now. A vigil continues tonight at the hospital bed of a district firefighter injured on Sunday when he put his life on the line to help others. 2 of his colleagues were killed battling that same blaze. Fox 5's Jackie Benson joins us now live from Washington Hospital Center, where firefighters, friends, and family members have gathered to show their love and support. Jackie.
Good evening, Tracy. 36-year-old Joseph Morgan Jr. clings tenaciously to life at this hour here at the Washington Hospital Center. Now, he was burned over 60% of his body, but friends say he was able to raise his left hand in a thumbs-up sign before a 6-hour operation this morning. Chief Donald Edwards saw him shortly before the procedure.
Firefighter Morgan has a long road to go back. As I stated earlier, it's going to be a long, slow recovery. Painful at times, probably extremely frustrating to him and to his family.
Now, the Sunday morning blaze claimed the lives of firefighters Lewis Matthews and Anthony Phillips. Now, Phillips' widow spoke to reporters for the first time this afternoon. She talked about her husband.
Her composure was extraordinary. Less than 3 days after losing her beloved husband in a sudden and terrible way, 26-year-old Lisa Phillips held a room full of reporters and firefighters spellbound as she talked about a very special man.
He was the best. He was the best. I couldn't ask God for anyone better than him.
She talked about her husband's love for his job, a job that took his life Sunday morning when a routine house fire in Northeast turned deadly.
This man, that was his dream, was to become a firefighter. It took him approximately 7 years to actually get into the department. And he came home with the stories. He told me, and I tell everyone, he was excited.
Phillips' mother agreed.
Tony he likes excitement, and this was exciting to him. And as she said, he pumped up. He not only pumped himself up, he pumped us up.
Lisa Phillips says she has wasted no time being angry at what happened.
I have no regrets at all. That was his dream, and he always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman.
And grown men wept as she talked about the two little boys who are Tony Phillips' greatest legacy, 21-month-old Arcel and 6-year-old Tony Jr.
He will always remember everything about his daddy. His daddy's, like I said, he couldn't ask for a better father.
Funeral arrangements have been finalized. They were made complete this afternoon. We have the information for you. The viewing for firefighter Anthony Phillips will be held this Thursday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Bethesda New Life Gospel Church at 750 Kenilworth Avenue in Northeast. And then funeral services will be held Friday at 10 a.m. at that same location. Now, later that same day, and this is going to be a day of a lot of pain for the fire department, the viewing will be held for firefighter Lewis Matthews. It will be from 4 to 9 p.m. at the Seat Pleasant Baptist Church. That is at 6611 Walker Mill Road in Capitol Heights, Maryland. And then his funeral will be held at noon on Saturday in the same location. Again, a round-the-clock vigil by D.C. firefighters here at the bedside of one of their own, one they hope very much will pull through. Back to you in the studio.
Jackie, you know this is a story that has touched so many people. I want to let our viewers know that a memorial fund has been established for firefighter Anthony Phillips. The fund has been set up at Nations Bank at the Landover Hills Banking Center in Landover Hills, Maryland. But contributions can be made at any Nations Bank.
And the efforts to help the two injured firemen go beyond just well wishes. There are a lot of people taking part in a blood drive to help them out. Today, dozens of people turned out to donate blood to that cause, and in just one day, the Washington Hospital Center collected 4 times the amount of blood they would collect on a normal day. You can help as well. You can donate at the Washington Hospital Center. You can go Monday through Friday between 8 and 5 o'clock. Now, as district officials express their sympathy to the grieving firefighting community, many are turning their attention to adding resources to help those men and women who protect us every day. Fox 5's Karen Gray Houston has the latest.
Mayor Tony Williams stopped by both Engine Company 10 and 26 to express his condolences and to tell firefighters what he plans to do so such a tragedy never happens again.
And I thought the least I could do was to come out here and show them my support. And I also wanted them to know that as part of rebuilding this city, I consider rebuilding the equipment and the resources they have to do their job.
Fire officials still don't know the exact cause of Saturday's fire, but are blaming superheated gases that resulted in a flashover for the deaths of Lewis Matthews and Anthony Phillips. That's why the fire chief wants flashover simulator training, like they're doing in Montgomery County to prepare their firefighters for the potentially deadly possibility of flashovers.
We've had the funding, I should say, for our new fire training simulator. A flashover simulator was not a part of that original funding. I'm going to see if I can get that.
The chief also says he'd like to see 5 personnel instead of 4 on trucks.
I would not want to say if I had had the additional personnel, then this would not have happened.
Firefighters around the city still have a job to do, a dangerous job, and they're doing it. Are they afraid? One firefighter told me it's fear that drives them to do it right.
It's going to be a long, painful healing process for Joseph Morgan, for his co-workers here at Engine Company 26, for the entire D.C. Fire Department. In the district, Karen Gray Houston, Fox 5 News.
By the way, the chief tells us that he is happy that the budget allowed them to purchase the equipment they already have, including 3 thermal imaging devices, which allow firefighters to be able to see through smoke and find victims, and several self-contained breathing apparatuses. Great.
You're watching NBC4, working for you. Live from the area's leading news station, this is News 4 at 11.
D.C. firefighters tonight are trying to come to grips with the loss of 2 colleagues who died in the line of duty. 30-year-old Anthony Phillips and 29-year-old Lewis Matthews were fighting a townhouse fire early on Sunday morning when they were both badly burned. Phillips died at the scene. Matthews passed away yesterday. Chris Gordon joins us now from the Washington Hospital Center, where a third firefighter remains in critical condition. Chris?
Firefighter Joe Morgan remains in critical condition after tolerating lengthy surgery. That's a good sign for his full recovery. But 2 other firefighters died in the same blaze, and tonight their companies are trying to cope with the loss. Engine 10 is seeing a lot of service. They're keeping busy while focusing on Friday's funeral for fellow firefighter Anthony Phillips. He was killed in the fatal fire at this Fort Lincoln townhouse on Sunday. There's a growing memorial in front of the engine house. Phillips' widow says he died doing what he loved best.
He always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman. He wanted just to do his job. He wanted to do his job, and I have no regrets at all.
Business as usual. That's the way Engine Company 26 is trying to handle things.
Local Engine 26 respond.
But it isn't business as usual. They're planning a Friday wake and Saturday funeral for firefighter Lewis Matthews. Firefighter Joe Morgan Jr. suffered burns over 60% of his body, and he underwent serious surgery at the Washington Hospital Center, where volunteers lined up to donate blood.
We just really appreciate all the support that we have gotten from everyone, friends, families, and strangers. Everyone has just been so nice, and we are going to be okay.
The fatal fire has raised questions about the amount of money the district pays the families of fallen firefighters in death benefits, and whether there's funding for proper staffing and equipment.
I consider rebuilding the equipment and the resources they have to do their jobs of utmost priority, because if they're going to put their lives on the line, the least we can do is make sure they've got the resources to do their job.
Beginning tomorrow, there will be a memorial service, wake, or funeral every day for the next 4 days. And with that, firefighters hope the healing can begin. We're live at the Washington Hospital Center. Back to you.
Chris, thanks. Dwayne?
Funeral arrangements for both firefighters have been finalized. Now there will be a viewing for Anthony Phillips on Thursday at the Bethesda New Life Gospel Church on Kenilworth Avenue in Northeast D.C. The calling hours are from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. His funeral service will take place the following day at 10 o'clock in the morning. A viewing for Lewis Matthews will be held on Friday from 4 to 9 p.m. at the St. Paul Baptist Church. That's at 6611 Walker Mill Road in Capitol Heights, Maryland. His funeral will be held at noon on Saturday at the same church.
You're watching Washington's ABC 7. We're on your side. This is News 7 at 11 with Maureen Bunyan.
Tonight, the family of one of 2 D.C. firefighters killed talked to News 7 about the man they loved. The widow of Anthony Phillips paid a visit to her late husband's colleagues at Engine Company 10. He died in a fire at a Northeast D.C. townhouse on Sunday. His fellow firefighter, Lewis Matthews, died later from severe burns. Phillips' family members say that he was a man who loved his work.
The fires got him excited. He said the adrenaline was just pumping, you know, and he's just ready to go all the time, and he loved it.
This was just his thing, and he wanted it, and he went after it, and he got it, and it was his.
As firefighters, fire investigators continue their work, News 7 sources have pieced together one possible explanation for the blaze that killed those 2 D.C. firefighters. News 7's Dale Solly is live outside the Northeast townhouse where that tragedy took place. Dale?
Everything, Maureen, that happened here early Sunday morning happened according to the book, rule by rule, the letter of the fire department law. However, a source tonight, long familiar with firefighting techniques, says the tragedy that happened here happened because of aggressive firefighting and bad luck. The fire was already burning hot in the basement of the Cherry Lane townhouse when firefighters arrived, but there was practically nothing showing on the first floor. In fact, when Tony Phillips, Lewis Matthews, Joe Morgan, and their lieutenant Charles Redding went in through the front door, they couldn't tell where the fire was.
When we first entered the house, it was just smoke. There was really no heat.
As Redding's team held its ground upstairs, a second fire crew was ready at the basement door.
They came in through the basement. However, they did wait outside until they had communications from the battalion chief to make entry.
But a News 7 source says when the second crew was ordered to attack the fire, putting the wet stuff on the red stuff, as he put it, they forced the flames to find another way out. That way was up toward Redding and his team.
Fire came up in the rear of us, behind us. And then I told them, it's a fire behind us. And we turned around and we put that fire out. And then as soon as we put that fire out, everything just got real hot.
They were expecting there might be flames. They weren't expecting them to ignite the super hot vapors that went up with a whoop behind them.
And everything just went from there. It just went crazy.
Our source says this is a common occurrence, happening up to 100 times a year in this country. In this case, it produced uncommon and tragic results. We are still live here at the scene of the fire, and I should tell you that our sources are saying that all of this, again, was done by the book. In fact, department procedure, Maureen, calls for the guys fighting the fire in the basement to go ahead and try to put the fire out, while the first floor crew is supposed to stay put and keep fire damage down in the rest of the structure. Officially here, the cause is accidental. In Northeast Washington, I'm Dale Solly. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Dale. And funeral services for the two firefighters are as follows. Anthony Phillips' viewing is set for Thursday from 11 in the morning to 8 in the evening at the New Bethesda Gospel Church on Kenilworth Avenue Northeast. His funeral will be Friday at 10 o'clock at that church. Firefighter Phillips will be buried at Fort Lincoln Cemetery, and the viewing for Lewis Matthews is scheduled for Friday from 4 in the afternoon to 9 in the evening at St. Paul's Baptist Church. That's at 6611 Walker Mill Road in Capitol Heights. Firefighter Matthews' funeral will be held Saturday at noon at the same church, and he will be buried at Washington National Cemetery.
Live from WUSA Broadcast House, Channel 9 Eyewitness News Tonight begins now.
He always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman.
The widow of one of the fallen firefighters, Anthony Phillips, talks about her husband's dedication to keeping district residents safe. Good evening, I'm Andrea Roan.
I'm Gordon Peterson.
The widow of fallen firefighter Anthony Phillips is remembering her husband as a man dedicated to keeping people in the district safe. As fellow firefighters and mourners paid their respects to Phillips outside Engine Company 10, where he worked, inside the fire station, his widow, Lisa Phillips, told reporters more about her hero husband.
That was his dream, was to become a firefighter. It took him approximately 7 years to actually get into the department. And he came home with the stories. He told me, and I tell everyone, he was excited. The fires got him excited. He said the adrenaline was just pumping, you know, and he was just ready to go all the time. And he loved it. He loved it.
At the Northeast Washington townhouse where Phillips and fellow firefighter Lewis Matthews were fatally wounded, more flowers, a teddy bear, and crosses, a growing tribute to the men who gave their lives to keep the community safe.
Now here's a look at the funeral arrangements for the two firefighters. There will be a viewing for Anthony Phillips on Thursday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Bethesda New Life Gospel Church on 750 Kenilworth Avenue in Northeast. On Friday, Phillips' funeral will take place at the same church at 10 a.m. Right after the funeral, Phillips will be interred at the Fort Lincoln Cemetery at 3401 Bladensburg Road in Brentwood, Maryland.
For firefighter Lewis Matthews, a viewing is scheduled for Friday from 4 to 9 p.m. at St. Paul Baptist Church. That's at 6611 Walker Mill Road in Capitol Heights, Maryland. His funeral will be at noon Saturday, also at St. Paul's Baptist Church in Capitol Heights, Maryland.
And Lewis Matthews?
He will be interred at Washington National Cemetery at 4101 Suitland Road in Suitland, Maryland.
Two firefighters dead. Good morning, Washington. It is Wednesday, June 2nd. I'm Mary Jo Walsh.
I'm Horace Holmes. Thank you so much for being with this breaking news out of Springfield at the Texas. Well, an investigation into last Sunday's fire that killed 2 firefighters and injured 2 others shows that all procedures were followed by the book. A source tells News 7's Dale Solly that Sunday's tragedy happened because of aggressive firefighting and bad luck. According to one source, when the 4 firefighters entered the townhouse on Cherry Road, they did not know where the fire was coming from. All they saw was smoke. Another crew was also waiting at the basement door for orders to enter. When they entered the basement, the flames had to find another way out. Unfortunately, that was through the door where the 4 firefighters were. According to Fire Chief William Mould, department procedures were followed.
Steps. In this case, these firefighters were on the first floor. There was communications from the company in the rear that it was a basement fire. Their operation is to wait until the battalion chief tells them that it's okay to make an advance on the fire, and I believe that happened, that was not a problem.
Cause of the fire has been ruled accidental.
Fox 5's Morning News starts now.
A D.C. firefighter caught in that weekend townhouse fire in Northeast remains in critical condition this morning. Joseph Morgan was burned over 90% of his body when superheated toxic gases inside the home suddenly exploded into a fireball or flashover. 2 of his colleagues, Anthony Phillips and Lewis Matthews, died from their injuries. Yesterday, Phillips' wife spoke with reporters for the first time since the tragedy. Fox 5's Jackie Benson was there.
Her composure was extraordinary. Less than 3 days after losing her beloved husband in a sudden and terrible way, 26-year-old Lisa Phillips held a room full of reporters and firefighters spellbound as she talked about a very special man.
He was the best. He was the best. I couldn't ask God for anyone better than him.
She talked about her husband's love for his job, a job that took his life Sunday morning when a routine house fire in Northeast turned deadly.
This man, that was his dream, was to become a firefighter. It took him approximately 7 years to actually get into the department. And he came home with the stories. He told me, and I tell everyone, he was excited.
Phillips' mother agreed.
Tony he likes excitement, and this was exciting to him. And as she said, he pumped up. He not only pumped himself up, he pumped us up.
Lisa Phillips says she has wasted no time being angry at what happened.
I have no regrets at all. That was his dream, and he always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman.
And grown men wept as she talked about the 2 little boys who are Tony Phillips' greatest legacy, 21-month-old Arcel and 6-year-old Tony Jr.
He will always remember everything about his daddy. His daddy's, like I said, he couldn't ask for a better father.
That report from Fox 5's Jackie Benson. Funeral arrangements have been finalized for both men. The public viewing for firefighter Anthony Phillips will be held Thursday at the Bethesda New Life Baptist Church in Northeast. That will be from 11 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. Funeral services will be held on Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning. The public viewing for firefighter Lewis Matthews will be held Friday at St. Paul Baptist Church in Capitol Heights from 4 to 9 p.m. Funeral services will be held on Saturday, beginning at noon.
You're watching NBC4, working for you. Live from the area's leading news station, this is News 4 at 9.
Back here at home, D.C. firefighters say the best thing they can do is focus on their job. They say it's the job that keeps them going, despite the tragic loss of 2 of their colleagues. 29-year-old Lewis Matthews and 30-year-old Anthony Phillips died after battling a townhouse fire in Northeast last Sunday. Phillips' widow said her husband died doing the job he always loved.
He always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman. He wanted just to do his job. He wanted to do his job, and I have no regrets at all.
Funeral arrangements for both firefighters have now been made. There will be a viewing for Anthony Phillips tomorrow at the Bethesda New Life Gospel Church on Kenilworth Avenue in Northeast Washington. The calling hours are from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. His funeral service will take place the following day at 10 in the morning. A viewing for Lewis Matthews will be held on Friday from 4 to 9 p.m. at the St. Paul Baptist Church at 6611 Walker Mill Road in Capitol Heights, Maryland. His funeral will be held at noon on Saturday at the same church.
Fox 5's Noon News starts now.
Good Wednesday afternoon, everyone. I'm Laura Evans.
And I'm Patrick McGrath. Welcome to Fox's Noon News.
One of the D.C. firefighters critically injured in a weekend townhouse fire in Northeast continues to fight for his life at this hour. Joseph Morgan was burned over most of his body when toxic gases inside the home suddenly exploded into a fireball, or what's called a flashover. Two of his colleagues, Anthony Phillips and Lewis Matthews, were killed in that incident. Phillips' wife says her husband always wanted to be a firefighter.
I have no regrets at all. That was his dream, and he always said if he would go, he would like to go doing what he enjoyed doing, which was being a fireman.
A public viewing for firefighter Phillips will be held Thursday at the Bethesda New Life Baptist Church in Northeast. That will be from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Funeral services will be held on Friday at 10 a.m. A public viewing for firefighter Lewis Matthews will be held Friday at St. Paul Baptist Church in Capitol Heights. That's from 4 to 9 p.m. Funeral services for him will be held on Saturday at noon. Firefighter Charles Redding, who was also injured inside the townhouse explosion, is recovering at home.
Broadcast House. Channel 9 Eyewitness News at noon begins now.
A memorial service for two fallen firefighters will be held tonight at Engine Company 10 in Northeast Washington. Anthony Phillips and Lewis Matthews died from injuries suffered while fighting a townhouse fire Sunday morning. Here's a look at their funeral arrangements. A viewing for Anthony Phillips will be held tomorrow from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. at the Bethesda New Life Gospel Church on Kenilworth Avenue in Northeast. His funeral takes place at the same church Friday at 10 a.m. And following the church service, firefighter Phillips will be buried at Fort Lincoln Cemetery on Bladensburg Road in Brentwood, Maryland. Lewis Matthews' viewing is scheduled for Friday evening from 4 until 9 p.m. at St. Paul Baptist Church on Walker Mill Road. That's in Capitol Heights, Maryland. His funeral will be at noon on Saturday, also at St. Paul Baptist Church. And immediately following the church service, firefighter Matthews will be buried at Washington National Cemetery on Suitland Road in Suitland.
You're watching NBC4, working for you. Live from the area's leading news station, this is News 4 at 6.
Firefighters from across the metro area are preparing for this evening's memorial service to honor one of two D.C. firefighters who died in the line of duty this week. James Adams joins us live from Engine Company number 10 in Northeast D.C. with more on the story now. James?
Well, Doug, we're just off Florida Avenue, and just a few moments ago, you can see behind me now, Engine 10 is backing its way into the firehouse. For the past 4 years, this was home to Tony Phillips. At 30 years old, he came directly here out of the Fire Training Academy, and I'm told he was a very likable, aggressive firefighter. He was the first firefighter to die during that deadly flashover at a townhome at Fort Washington. 3146 Cherrywood Road, an address now firmly etched in the minds of D.C. firefighters.
Back again, just to, let them know we love them. You never can say how much, you miss somebody.
Two died here, and the expressions of sympathy and pain continue to come as firefighters from across the city do what they can to console, relieve, and release.
Everybody wants to pitch in. There's a lot of people pitching in, and everybody wants to do a little something. We all feel like we're responsible.
It's just going to take a while for everybody. It's just not something that happens overnight.
At the Washington Hospital Center, the blood drive continues. A donating firefighter nervously toys with his wedding band just before giving.
There's always in the back of her mind that she never thinks what is going to happen when I go to work. It's in the back of her mind, but I just go to work and do my job.
At Engine Company 10, a coat of paint on the bench that will hold Anthony Phillips' casket. Inside, his boots are affixed to a metal plate. As the firehouse prepares for tonight's memorial service, Engine 10 is once again called into service to save lives. That memorial service is scheduled to get underway between 6 o'clock and 6:30. Also, residents of Fort Lincoln are planning some special activities tomorrow. They want to say thank you to the firefighters here and convey their sympathies to the family of Tony Phillips as well. We'll have more coming up on News 4 at 6.
All right, thank you, James.
You're watching Washington's ABC 7. We're on your side. This is News 7 at 6.
There is an emotional farewell going on right now for two fallen firefighters who died battling a blaze in Fort Lincoln over the weekend. Family and friends have joined fellow firefighters at a memorial service for the two local heroes at Engine Company number 10. News 7's Sam Ford joins us now live from Northeast D.C. Sam?
Yes, Maureen. Well, the fire department works in 4 24-hour shifts, and today was the first day back on the job for those engine companies who lost men in Sunday's tragedy. And behind me at Engine Company 10, they have been working all day for a memorial service that is about to get underway in honor of fallen firefighter Anthony Phillips. Outside the firehouse of Engine 10 hung the photo of fallen comrade Anthony Phillips, while inside it was a hive of activity. Firefighters assigned here, plus volunteers from throughout the city and the metropolitan area.
We haven't had to cook. We've got guys coming in and working for our guys on their days off.
They were sprucing up the trucks for Friday's funeral procession, including Engine 10, which will carry Phillips's body, while other volunteers on their off days were handling calls for this, the busiest firehouse in the nation.
It's out of the love of our brothers. This tragedy that's happening could happen to anyone.
Today, at the site of Sunday's fire, firefighters came to stand and talk. At the house of Engine 26, where they lost firefighter Lewis Matthews, they were preparing to honor their fallen colleague as well. Many, like Gary Mayo, who fought that fire Sunday, could have stayed home, but didn't.
I'd rather come back and stay busy, because if I stayed at home and just thought about it, I know I'd probably go to pieces.
The funeral services for firefighter Lewis Matthews will be held Saturday in Capitol Heights, and firefighter Joseph Morgan is still listed in critical condition at the Washington Hospital Center. And the ceremonies are about to get underway. They haven't gotten underway just yet, but they will soon. Reporting live from Northeast Washington, I'm Sam Ford, News 7.
Thank you, Sam.
Live from WUSA Broadcast House, Channel 9 Eyewitness News at 6 begins now.
A special memorial service will get underway about 15 minutes from now for two D.C. firefighters who lost their lives protecting the city. Anthony Phillips and Lewis Matthews died earlier this week. They were fighting a townhouse fire in Northeast Washington when they were hit by a flashover, a fireball of ignited gases. The funeral for Phillips is set for Friday at 10 a.m. at Bethesda New Life Gospel Church in Kenilworth Avenue Northeast. The service for Matthews is Saturday noon at St. Paul Baptist Church. Church is on Walker Mill Road in Capitol Heights, Maryland. Family and friends are now gathering for the service at Engine Company 10 in Northeast. Anthony Phillips, who was 26, had served in that company for 4 years. His colleague, Lewis Matthews, was 29 and assigned to Engine Company 26.
He is believed to make a full recovery. Funeral arrangements have been completed now for the two D.C. firefighters who died after Sunday's townhouse fire. Firefighter Anthony Phillips' funeral will be Friday morning at 10 o'clock at Bethesda New Life Gospel Church. That's in Northeast. The public is welcome at his viewing from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow at the New Life Gospel Church. Firefighter Lewis Matthews will be remembered in a funeral service at St. Paul Baptist Church in Capitol Heights at noon on Saturday. His viewing is set for Friday at St. Paul's Church from 4 to 9.
You're watching NBC4, working for you. Live from the area's leading news station, this is News 4 at 6.
A memorial service is underway at this hour for a D.C. firefighter who was killed in the line of duty this past weekend. James Adams is at Engine Company number 10 in Northeast D.C. with more on this story now. James?
Jim, we're just off Florida Avenue, and the memorial services for firefighter Tony Phillips. It's getting underway behind me now. You see a gathering of community residents, firefighters, some city council members we saw as well here. This, ironically, has been nicknamed by the firefighters here the House of Pain because of the numbers of runs that that come out of this house. Over 9,000. It is the busiest firehouse in the nation. Today, obviously, a different kind of pain as they mourn the loss of 30-year-old Tony Phillips. Phillips was married. His wife's name Lisa. They had 2 children, a little boy 6 years old and a daughter 2 years old. He worked out of Engine Company 10 for 4 years, coming directly here out of the D.C. Fire Training Academy. He obviously died in that townhome fire when there was a deadly flashover in Fort Lincoln. He was the first firefighter to pass away. Inside the firehouse this evening, a number again of residents in the area. His family is here. The service is going on. People basically saying thank you and at the same time extending their sympathies to the family of Tony Phillips. Lewis Matthews from Engine Company 26 also died in that fire, and firefighter Joe Morgan, also from Company 26, remains in critical condition at the Washington Hospital Center. Funeral services will be held tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock for firefighter Phillips. They will be held at the New Bethesda Gospel Church on Kenilworth Avenue. Jim, back to you.
James Adams, thanks. Jerry.
Fox 5's 10 o'clock news starts now.
A solemn vigil this evening for fallen firefighter Andrew Phillips. Dozens of friends and family members gathered at Station 10 in Northeast D.C. to remember that hero. A makeshift memorial was made at the firehouse in honor of Phillips. Andrew Phillips is one of 2 men who died in a Sunday townhouse fire. Firefighter Phillips will be the first person to be buried in a new place of honor. The last alarm garden will be created at Fort Lincoln Cemetery. A special section of that cemetery in Brentwood will be for firemen, EMTs, and their families, with a special section for those who've died on the job. The design is a dream of a cemetery employee who has a special respect for all firefighters.
Firefighter's wife, every time he went out, I never knew if he was going to come back. And it gets kind of emotional, but they needed it. And it was Fort Lincoln's way of giving something back to the community.
It was firefighters who suggested the name, The Last Alarm. It's the phrase they use to refer to a call like the one on Sunday that takes a life. It will be finished in the spring of next year. Phillips will be first one to be buried there.
Live from WUSA Broadcast House, Channel 9 Eyewitness News Tonight begins now.
Tonight, a solemn ceremony in Northeast Washington honoring 2 firefighters who died battling a townhouse fire. Friends and family of Anthony Phillips and Lewis Matthews gathered at Engine Company number 10, where Phillips had served. Funeral services for Anthony Phillips will be held Friday at Bethesda New Life Baptist Church in Northeast. Service for Lewis Matthews Saturday at St. Paul Baptist Church in Capitol Heights, Maryland.
You're watching NBC4, working for you. Live from the area's leading news station, this is News 4 at 11.
A memorial service was held this evening for one of the firefighters killed in the line of duty this week. The members of Engine Company number 10 planned the memorial service for their fallen colleague, Anthony Phillips. His relatives, the station house family, and members of the community filled the firehouse on Florida Avenue in Northeast.
Tony was a good friend. A lot of these guys spent many years playing basketball with Tony in leagues. Firehouse is like a big family. We joke around a lot together, we play a lot together, and they just felt like they had to express something here, from them, home, and from them.
Phillips and firefighter Lewis Matthews of Engine Company 26 died from injuries they received when they were caught in a flashover, it's called, while fighting a townhouse fire in Northeast D.C. on Sunday. Another firefighter, Joe Morgan, is still in critical condition.